September 12, 1944, Lorraine, France. The fog is a thick, cold gray soup. It clings to the mud. It drips from the shattered pine trees. For the men of the 4th Armored Division, this is not the France they were promised. The triumphant 200-mile rat race across the sunny fields of August, the Great Swan after the Normandy breakout, is over. This is a new war. It is a war of mud, fog, and waiting. Staff Sergeant Mike "Stubby" Harris, a by-the-book tank commander with the 37th Tank Battalion, is doing what the experts at Fort Knox trained him to do. He is leading from the front. He is standing, exposed from the waist up, in the open commander's hatch of his M4 Sherman, Charlie 1. His eyes are burning, his hands raw from gripping the cold steel of his binoculars. His crew, a 19-year-old gunner, a 20-year-old loader, a driver, and a bow gunner, are all sealed, buttoned up inside the 30-ton steel box. But the expert doctrine is clear. A closed-down tank is a blind tank. The commander must be exposed to command. Charlie 2, a green lieutenant, is 50 yards to his right. They are on a reconnaissance in force, nosing through the fog, looking for the German rearguard. "See anything, Stubby?" The lieutenant's voice crackles over the radio. "Nothing," Stubby mutters, his breath a white cloud. "Just trees. This fog is thick as crack." The sound is not a boom. It's a high-velocity supersonic crack, a sound that arrives after the shell. Charlie 1, Stubby's tank, just lurches. It stops dead. The shell, an impossible shot from an invisible gun, has hit the tank's turret 12 inches from Stubby's head. He is gone. Not wounded. Not killed. Gone. Vaporized. Inside the tank, the 19-year-old gunner, his world now a dark, smoke-filled, ringing hell, doesn't even know his commander is dead. He just knows they've been hit. Charlie 2, the lieutenant's tank, stops. The crew is in a blind panic. Where is it? Where did it come from? The lieutenant screams, ducking down inside his own hatch, slamming it shut. He is now, by the book, a blind tank. The tree line. 1,000 yards. Fire! Fire! High explosive! This is the expert response. Suppress the area. The Sherman's 75mm gun booms. A low-velocity, useless shell that explodes harmlessly against a pine tree 1,000 yards away. They are waiting. Listening. The silence is terrifying. The fog is total. And then, crack. The second shell hits Charlie 2, punching straight through the 51mm of frontal armor as if it were cardboard. The tank brews up, a catastrophic secondary explosion as the ammunition cooks off. The turret blowing 10 feet into the air. 2 tanks, 10 men, gone in 30 seconds. And then, out of the fog, 200 yards away, its job done, the Goliath appears, rolling with an arrogant, unhurried confidence. It is a Panzerkampfwagen va the Panther. Its long 75mm sniper rifle cannon is smoking. It had seen the expert commanders standing in their hatches from a mile away. It had waited. It had killed them, and it had never for a single second been in any danger. This is the impossible problem. The American M4 Sherman, the workhorse of the Allies, the tank that had won the breakout, is now a death trap. And the American expert doctrine, the aggressive, brawling head-in-the-hatch tactic of General George S. Patton, is now a suicide pact. The expert solution is failing. The hardware is obsolete. The doctrine is a lie. And the solution will not come from a factory in Detroit. It will come from a crazy, cowardly, ugly piece of junk, welded upside down to the hatch of a single tank. Let's rewind to August 1944. The good old days. The 4th Armored Division, Patton's rock stars, are on a tear. After the breakout from Normandy, they are a Goliath, a steel scythe cutting through the disorganized, retreating German 7th Army. Their expert doctrine, Patton's brawlers, works. They are cavalry. They brawl. They get in close. Their Shermans fast, reliable. Their 75mm guns perfect for killing the leftovers, the Panzerfees, the Stug assault guns, the half-tracks. Confidence is sky high. The expert system is validated. And then they hit Lorraine. And they meet the new German army, the 5th Panzer Army. An army that has been rebuilt, refitted, and reborn with a Goliath that makes the Panzer IV look like a toy. This is the Panther AUSF, G. It is, quite simply, a tank killer. It is a 45-ton monster, and its impossible advantage is twofold. First, the hardware failure. The Panther's armor. It has 80mm of frontal armor, sloped at a perfect 55 degrees. This gives it an effective thickness of 140 mm. The expert American M4 Sherman, with its by-the-book 75 mm M3 gun, can penetrate 70 mm of armor at 500 yards. At a perfect 90-degree angle, the math is impossible. The expert American gun cannot penetrate the Goliath's frontal armor at any range. The GIs who had been brawlers now found themselves in the exact same position as PFC Riley in the Hurtgen forest. They were firing, and they were hearing a ping. Their wonder weapon was bouncing off. Second, the Goliath's weapon, the impossible sniper rifle, the Panther's 75 mm K42L70 gun. It is not a tank gun. It is a high-velocity anti-tank rifle. It fires a shell at over 3,000 feet per second, and it can penetrate the Sherman's 51 mm frontal armor from 2,000 yards. A mile, this is the impossible equation of September 1944. The Panther can kill the Sherman from a mile away. The Sherman, to have any chance of a kill, has to suicidally race under fire to get within 200 yards of the Panther's side. The expert brawling tactic is gone. It is now suicide, but the hardware failure is not even the worst part. The worst part is the doctrine failure. This is the Goliath inside the U.S. Army. The expert consensus, the Fort Knox doctrine, the Patton way, is that the tank commander, the TC, must stand exposed in his hatch. Why? Visibility. A closed-down tank with the TC inside is blind. He has to lead. He has to be the eyes. This doctrine, which had worked in Normandy against a broken enemy, is now a death sentence in Lorraine. Why? Because the new German expert is not just the Panther. It is the Panzer Grenadier, the German infantry, the snipers, the 88 mm gunners. They have all been retrained. And what is their first target? The American tank commander, the stupid American who stands up in his tank. The TCs of the 4th Armored are being massacred. They are being sniped by high-velocity shells, as Stubby Harris was. They are being picked off by German snipers, who just wait for the man with the binoculars to pop his head up. The expert doctrine is killing the experts. This is the boardroom conflict. The Goliath is the manual. The crazy idea is, get inside the tank. Button up! But the expert consensus screams back, no, a buttoned-up tank is a blind tank. You will be ambushed. They are in an impossible trap. If the TC stands up, he is sniped. If the TC buttons up, his tank is ambushed. This is the impossible problem, and it is about to get worse. This is the ticking clock. It is September 18th, 1944. The 4th Armored Division, the tip of the spear for Patton's Third Army, has famously run out of gas. The Red Ball Express, the expert logistics solution, has failed. Patton's rock stars are stuck. They are stranded, deep in enemy territory, near a quiet French town called Arracourt. They are now a static, unbrawling division. A target, and in Berlin, Hitler is furious. He sees Patton's stranded division, and he orders a Goliath to annihilate it. He orders General Hasso von Manteuffel, one of his expert firemen, to command the 5th Panzer Army, and he gives him 150 brand-new Panther G tanks. The expert consensus in the German High Command is clear. The 4th Armored Division is a dead division. It is a brawler who has been chained to a post, and the real heavyweight champion is about to walk in and deliver a killing blow. The 4th Armored has no gas, obsolete tanks, and a suicidal doctrine. They have no answer, period. Enter Staff Sergeant Marcus Spooky Smith. He is not an officer. He is not a by-the-book expert from Fort Knox. He is a 28-year-old old man from rural Ohio, a platoon sergeant in the 37th Tank Battalion, and he is an unlikely hero. He wasn't trained to be a leader of men. He was a tinkerer. Back in the States, he'd been a motor pool sergeant, a grease monkey, a man who could, by some magical process, scrounge a new carburetor from a burned-out Jeep or fix a transmission with a wrench and a string of curses. His nickname, Spooky, came from this quiet, almost supernatural ability to find parts that didn't exist and fix things that were expertly declared unfixable. Spooky. Smith was a survivor, not a brawler. He had been in command of his tank, Clyde 4, for 3 months, and he had never once lost a crewman. While other by-the-book TCs were on their 3rd crew, Spooky's crew was the same 5 men who had landed in Normandy. They trusted him. Because he was not brave, he was smart, and he was careful. On September 12, 1944, Spooky Smith heard the impossible crack that vaporized Staff Sergeant Stubby Harris. He was in the same reconnaissance in force, but he was 300 yards behind the lead tanks. Why? Because he didn't like the fog. The by-the-book lieutenant had called him a coward on the radio. "Get up here, Smith! Close the gap!" "Sorry, Lieutenant," Spooky had radioed back. "Got a hiccup in the fuel line. Gonna hang back." It was a lie. It was a tinkerer's lie. And it was a lie that saved his life. He watched as Charlie 1 and Charlie 2 were annihilated by an invisible enemy they brawled with. He saw the expert doctrine fail. He saw the suicide pact in action. That night, back in the relative safety of the assembly area, the boardroom conflict began. It wasn't in a general's tent. It was in the mud, around a smoldering fire. The expert doctrine, the Goliath of the Fort Knox manual, was still in charge, in the form of a 22-year-old replacement officer, Lieutenant Davies, who had just been assigned to the platoon. "Listen up," Davies said, his voice crisp, trying to sound like Patton. "We got hit today. It was bad luck, but the doctrine is sound. Brawling, aggression, that's how we won in August. That's how we'll win here. We just need to be faster." The other TCs, new, green, and scared, nodded. "Yes, sir." And then, from the back, Spooky Smith, his face black with grease, spoke, his voice dangerously quiet. "No, sir. That's not how we'll win. That's how we'll die. Stubby. Stubby wasn't unlucky. He was murdered. By our book." The boardroom went silent. The by-the-book lieutenant stared at the unlikely hero NCO. "What did you say, Sergeant?" "I said the book is wrong," Spooky said, standing up. "We ain't brawlers anymore, Lieutenant. We're bait. That thing, out there, that Panther. It can kill us from a mile. We can't even scratch it from the front, so we stop brawling. We stop driving at them. We hide." "Hide?" Davies scoffed. The other sergeants laughed nervously. "Hide? This is the 4th Armored, Sergeant. We don't hide, that's cowardice. Call it what you want," Spooky shot back. "I call it living. We're not cavalry anymore. We're ambush predators. We get hull down. We find a ditch, we find a hill, and we wait. We let them make the mistake. We let them show us their side. That's the only way." The lieutenant was furious. "And how exactly do you propose to see them, Sergeant? From hiding? The book says a buttoned-up tank is a blind tank. If you're hiding in a ditch, buttoned up, that Panther is just going to roll right over you. Your cowardice is just a different kind of suicide. The book is the book for a reason. TCs, stay in the hatch." The boardroom conflict was over. The expert had won. The crazy idea was dismissed. Spooky Smith just stared at the lieutenant. He didn't say another word. He just turned, walked back to his tank, Clyde 4, and lit a cigarette. The lieutenant was an expert, but he was right about one thing. The impossible trap. If you button up, you're blind. If you stand up, you're dead. Spooky, the tinkerer, looked at his hatch. He was a survivor. And a survivor doesn't accept an impossible trap. A tinkerer breaks it. He crawled inside his tank. He looked at the TC's cupola. It had 5 by-the-book M6 Periscope blocks. Fixed. Forward-facing. Useless. He looked at his main M6 Periscope, the one he used. It was on a rotator, but it was inside the hatch. If the hatch was open, he used his eyes. If the hatch was closed, the Periscope was blind because the hatch lid was in the way. This was the impossible design flaw. This was the expert failure. And then Spooky Smith, the unlikely hero, had his eureka moment. It was so crazy, so stupid, so unexpert. It was brilliant. He looked at the M6 Periscope. He looked at the hatch lid. What if he could use the Periscope while the hatch was closed? But how? The hatch lid was a 3-inch thick slab of steel. He went to the motor pool. This was his boardroom. He found his welding torch. He went to the graveyard, the pile of wrecked M4s, the spare parts pile. He scrounged. He found what he needed. A spare M6 Periscope housing. Not the glass guts. Just the empty steel angled head that held the Periscope. He took it back to Clyde 4. His crew watched him, baffled. "What's the plan, Spooky?" his loader asked. "I'm tired of being blind," Spooky muttered. He fired up the welding torch. The expert system, the by-the-book maintenance manual, forbade unauthorized field modifications. It compromised the armor. Spooky didn't care. He took the empty spare Periscope housing and welded it upside down to the outside of his commander's hatch lid. His crew was stunned. It was ugly. It was a jagged, lumpy, crazy piece of junk, stuck to the hatch like a metal tumor. "Sarge, what is that?" Spooky, his face lit by the welding arc, grinned. "That is my coward's cupola. This was the test. This was the crazy invention." The next morning, his fellow TCs, including the by-the-book Lieutenant Davies, saw it, and they laughed. They howled. "What in God's name is that, Smith?" Davies yelled, walking over. "Did a bird die on your hatch?" Spooky just smiled. "Watch." He got inside his tank. He said, "Button up." The hatch slammed shut. The crew inside Clyde 4 was now, by the book, blind. "Now, Lieutenant," Spooky's voice crackled over the radio. "Walk around my tank. Tell me when I can't see you." Davies, scoffing, started walking. "Okay, Smith, I'm at your 9 o'clock. "I see you," Spooky said. Davies kept walking. "I'm at your 6 o'clock, your rear. You're blind, Smith." "I see you, Lieutenant. You need a shave." Davies froze. He was behind the tank. He walked up and hammered on the hatch. "Open this now." Spooky opened the hatch, his face calm. "What's the crazy magic?" Davies demanded. Spooky showed him. The M6 Periscope inside the tank was now raised. Its head was sticking up, inside the upside-down empty housing that Spooky had welded outside. The crazy housing was acting as a blast shield for the real Periscope's head. "And," Davies said, unimpressed, "and," Spooky said, "the M4 cupola rotates." He pulled a lever. The entire commander's cupola, the hatch, Spooky's seat, and the Periscope began to spin. 50 degrees. The expert TCs were silent. Their expert doctrine never told them to rotate the cupola. Why? Because their head was sticking out of it. If they rotated, they'd be a spinning target. But Spooky was safe, buttoned up, and he could see. In all directions, he had just solved the impossible trap. He had just broken the Goliath of expert doctrine. He was no longer dead or blind. He was safe, and he was a hunter. The test was a success. The laughter had stopped. But Lieutenant Davies, the Goliath of the by-the-book, was not convinced. "It's a crazy idea, Sergeant. It's cowardly, it's unblooded. It's not the Patton way. We brawl, we attack, we don't hide and peek." Spooky Smith just looked at him. "You brawl, Lieutenant. I'll peek, and we'll see who's unblooded tomorrow." And tomorrow was about to arrive. It was September 18th, 1944. The 4th Armored Division was stranded at Arracourt. The fog was rolling in, and General Hasso von Manteuffel's Goliath, the 150 brand-new Panthers of the 5th Panzer Army, were, at that very moment, revving their engines. Spooky's folly, the crazy upside-down Periscope, was about to be field-tested against the most expert tank killers in the world, the night of September 18th, 1944. A farmhouse cellar near Arracourt, France. The men of the 37th Tank Battalion's C Company are in a state of quiet, existential dread. The 4th Armored Division is stuck. The Great Swan is over. They are out of gas. They are, for the first time, not hunters, but prey. And worst of all, the fog, the nebel that the Germans love, has rolled in. A thick, wet, 10-foot visibility blanket that makes every man feel blind. In this cellar, the boardroom conflict, which had begun as a laugh, is now a bitter, terrified argument. Lieutenant Davies, the 22-year-old expert, is furious. His by-the-book authority has been challenged by an unlikely hero NCO, Sergeant Spooky Smith. And Smith's crazy invention, the upside-down Periscope, is to Davies a symbol of everything that is wrong. It is cowardly. It is defensive. It is not the Patton way. "Let's be clear, gentlemen," Davies says, his voice tight, addressing the other NCOs and TCs in the room, but staring at Spooky. "The 4th Armored attacks. We are cavalry. We brawl. This fog is our ally. The book is clear. Fog negates the enemy's long-range gun advantage. It forces them to brawl with us at 100 yards, and at 100 yards, our GI's 75mm can kill them." He is expertly, by the book, correct. The Goliath's impossible 2,000-yard sniper rifle is useless in this fog. The expert solution is to charge into the fog, to find the blind Panther and brawl with it. Spooky Smith, sitting on an ammo can, cleaning his fingernails with a trench knife, doesn't even look up. "Lieutenant, with respect, That book is gonna get us all killed." "How do you figure, Sergeant?" Davies snaps. Spooky sighs, finally looking up. "Because, sir, you're forgetting one thing. They know the book, too. They know we're brawlers. They know we're gonna charge into that fog. And what are they gonna do? They're gonna wait. They're gonna sit in an ambush, hull down, listening. And the second they hear our expert charge, 100 yards away, they're gonna fire first, and they won't miss." He was by the book, also correct. This was the impossible trap. "So what's your crazy solution, Sergeant?" Davies sneers. "We hide? We let them roll right over us? That's your plan?" "Yeah," Spooky says, his voice flat. "That's my plan. We hide. We button up. We listen. We use the fog better than they do. We let them be the expert brawlers. We let them be the arrogant ones, charging into the blind. And then, when they roll past us, we put a 75 in their ass. My cowardly plan is to let them be the heroes." The boardroom conflict is at a total impasse. The expert versus the unlikely hero, the by-the-book versus the crazy, the Goliath of doctrine versus the David of experience, and the system. The system always wins. "No," Davies says, his voice final. "That is not the plan. That is cowardice. At 0600 we are con in force. We brawl. We find them, we fix them, we kill them. That is the Patton way. And you, Sergeant Smith, you and your contraption will be the base of fire. You can hide and peek all you want, after we have made contact." The expert had won. He had shelved the crazy idea. He had, in effect, sent the unlikely hero to the kids' table. 6 to 30 hours, September 19th, 1944. The Battle of Arracourt begins. Lieutenant Davies is a hero. He is an expert. He leads from the front, his head out of the hatch, his binoculars to his eyes, brawling with the fog. His 3-tank recon element, Charlie 2, Charlie 3, and Charlie 4 rolls forward, their engines a loud, aggressive roar in the 20-yard visibility. Spooky Smith in Clyde 4 does as he's told. He hangs back 300 yards, a coward in his base of fire position. He buttons up, he slams his hatch, and he starts peeking with his upside-down periscope, spinning it, 360 degrees. Listening. 5 minutes later, the expert system dies. Lieutenant Davies, brawling, rolls his tank right past a crazy ambush, not an American ambush. A German one, a Panther, commanded by SS Hauptscharführer Klaus, is hiding. He is using Spooky's own tactic. He is hull down in a ditch, engine off, listening. He hears the expert American brawl. He waits. He lets Charlie 2 get to 50 yards. He lets him get so close he can smell his exhaust. And then, crack. The Panther's 75mm sniper rifle, at 50 yards, is not a tank gun. It is a demolition charge. The shell hits Charlie 2, the lieutenant's tank, under the turret. The expert lieutenant is gone. The tank detonates. Charlie 3. And Charlie 4, the other by-the-book TCs panic. Contact, 9 o'clock. They brawl. They turn their tanks, exposing their thin side armor. They stop. They are blind, buttoned up, spinning their periscopes, looking for the Goliath. Crack. Crack. 2 more shots. 2 more impossible penetrations. 2 more expert American tanks. Brew up. It has taken less than 90 seconds. The entire expert platoon is gone. The by-the-book doctrine has just been annihilated by a smarter expert using the crazy tactic. And now, the Goliath, the Panther having won, makes his expert, by-the-book mistake. He moves. He advances. He becomes a brawler, rolling out of his coward's ambush to mop up the base of fire. He is hunting for Spooky, but Spooky is not blind, and he is not dead. From his coward's position 300 yards away, Spooky Smith saw nothing, but he heard everything. He heard the crack, 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 and now in his upside-down rotating periscope, he sees the Goliath. The expert German tanker, Hauptscharführer Klaus, is not looking for spooky. He is brawling. He is looking forward at the smoke of his kills. He is arrogant. He is exposed. And, in his expert advance, he is showing Spooky Smith his entire 40mm thick flat as a barn door. Side. This is the impossible moment. The crazy idea meets the expert failure. Gunner, Spooky's voice is ice. Traverse right. Panther, 300 yards. Side armor, fire. On the way, his 19-year-old gunner yells. Boom. The Sherman's useless 75mm gun, the peashooter, fires. The shell, which would have bounced off the front, slices through the side armor. It punches through. It detonates the Panther's main ammunition. Kaboom! The Goliath, the expert Panther, the invincible sniper, is vaporized. Its turret, just like the American tanks, is blown 20 feet into the air. The crazy idea, the upside-down periscope, the coward's tactic, has just won. This is the catalyst. The boardroom conflict is over. The expert system is dead. The lieutenant is dead. The book is dead. The Goliath, the Panther, is also dead. And the only man left standing is the unlikely hero NCO. The system has collapsed. And now, Spooky Smith is the system. When the rest of the company, the other TCs, the men who laughed at him roll up, they are staring at a graveyard. 3 expert Shermans burning. And 1 Goliath Panther also burning. And sitting on his buttoned-up tank, his crazy upside-down periscope glistening in the fog, is Spooky Smith. The company captain, a man named Brooks, rolls up. His voice on the radio is shaking. Smith. Sergeant Smith. What? What is your status? What happened? Spooky. Smith picks up his mic. The book is dead, sir. Lieutenant Davies is dead. The brawlers are dead, and the Goliath is dead. He pauses. My crazy idea, it works. Now if you'll excuse me, sir, I hear more of 'em comin', and I'm going hull down. The laughter is over. The crazy idea is now the only idea. The unlikely hero has just been promoted. He is now officially the teacher, and the Battle of Arracourt has just become his classroom. The word spread through the 37th Tank Battalion like a flash fire. It wasn't an official report. It was a rumor, a whisper on the radio net, passed from one terrified, buttoned-up tank crew to another. Did you hear? Davies's brawling platoon is gone. Wiped out. 3 tanks in 90 seconds. The only survivor is Spooky Smith. He peeked, he hid, and he killed the Panther. This was the validation. The expert system, the Goliath of the Fort Knox book, had been proven a suicide pact, and the crazy, cowardly idea of an unlikely hero NCO was now the only expert doctrine that worked. The boardroom conflict was over. The laughter had died with the lieutenant. When Captain Brooks, the company commander, got on the radio, his voice was no longer by the book. It was desperate. All Charlie call signs. This is Charlie 6. We are no longer brawling. We are hunting. Find a hull down. Find a ridge. Find a ditch. Get buttoned up. Cut your engines. And listen, we are not finding them. We are letting them find us. Spooky's way. That is a direct order. Acknowledge. One by one, the expert TCs, the men who had laughed at the upside-down periscope 24 hours earlier, clicked their mics. Charlie 3, Roger. Charlie 5, Roger. The crazy idea was now the new expert doctrine, and the entire company was now a hunter-killer team, and now the impossible problem returned en masse. General Hasso von Manteuffel, the Goliath commander of the 5th Panzer Army, believed that the expert American brawlers were broken. He believed that first, 90-second climax was the end of the battle. He now ordered his entire force, 2 panzer brigades, over 100 invincible Panthers, to charge and annihilate the remnants of the 4th Armored. It was September 19th, 1944. The fog was still a thick, 50-yard soup, and the Goliath did exactly what Spooky Smith had predicted. He brawled, he charged, The expert German commanders, knowing their armor was invincible from the front, knowing their guns were snipers, charged blindly into the fog. Head in the hatch, their engines roaring. Expecting to roll over a terrified, retreating enemy, they were expert, by-the-book brawlers. And they were charging arrogantly and blindly into a valley of 30 spooky Smiths. The scene was set for the climax from our title. SS Hauptsturmführer Captain Rolf Hoffmann, an expert 30-kill ace, was in the lead Panther of the 111th Panzer Brigade. He hated this fog, but his orders were aggression. His expert intelligence said the Americans were fools, brawlers who stood up in their hatches, and whose 75mm guns could not hurt him. He was a Goliath who believed his own press. All Cobra call signs, Hoffmann radioed. Advance. Vorwärts, find the Amis. They are blind and scared. Kill them all. His column of 15 Panthers, a 700-ton wall of invincible steel, rolled over the ridge at Moncourt. They were brawling. They were loud. They were expertly scanning, forward. And in a hull-down ditch, 500 yards away, Spooky Smith, buttoned up, safe behind his crazy upside-down periscope, spun his cupola. And he watched them. He saw all of them. Jesus, his loader whispered, his eye to his own fixed periscope. It's the whole German army. Shut up, says Spooky whispered. Gunner, traverse right, lead Panther. 500 yards. I can't, Sarge, the 19-year-old gunner stammered. It's his front. It'll bounce. I know, Spooky hissed, his eye glued to his crazy periscope. We wait. Don't breathe. Captain Hoffmann's expert brawl was working. He passed Spooky's cowardly position. He missed him. He was blind. He was by the book. He was so expertly focused on the brawl in front of him. He was now showing his entire 40mm paper side to the unlikely hero in the ditch. Now, Spooky yelled. Side armor, fire! Boom! The useless 75mm shell sliced through the invincible Panther's side. The Goliath brewed up a catastrophic kill. 30 seconds. The second Panther in the column, commanded by a lieutenant named Free, stopped. He was confused. This was the impossible German boardroom conflict. Ambush! 9 o'clock! He screamed. He stopped. He turned his invincible frontal armor towards Spooky's ditch. He was an expert. He was reacting to the threat, but he wasn't reacting to Charlie 5 Captain Brooks. Spooky's commander, the man who was now a convert to the crazy doctrine, was hull down 400 yards to the right. He had also waited. He had also peeked. And now, expert Lieutenant Free was showing him. His 40mm paper side. Fire. Brooks screamed. Boom. The second invincible Panther brewed up. 60 seconds. The third Panther, a 19-year-old expert driver, panicked. This was not a brawl. This was a trap. This was crazy. He jammed the tank into reverse. But in his blind panic, he slammed into the fourth Panther. The clank of the 90-ton collision was deafening. The two Goliaths were stuck. They were trapped. They were now a 90-ton expert stationary target. Spooky Smith smiled. Gunner, load high explosive, he ordered. He, Sarge, not AP? They ain't armor anymore, Spooky said. They're a traffic jam. Hit the tracks. Boom, boom, Spooky and Captain Brooks both fired. The he-shells shredded the tracks. The two Goliaths were now crippled. And now, the rest of Charlie Company, the other converts to the spooky doctrine, the hunters opened up. From every ditch, from every ridge, the useless 75mm guns began to sing. They weren't brawling. They were ambushing. They were swarming. They were using their numbers and their angles. It was a massacre. The expert German Goliaths, the invincible Panthers, were blind. They were buttoned up without Spooky's crazy periscope. They were terrified. They were spinning in circles, brawling with ghosts. They were firing their sniper 75mm guns, blindly, into the fog while the cowardly Shermans, the peashooters, peeked, moved, and gutted them, one by one, from the side. This was the climax. This was the 90-second crazy tactic, scaled up. In the 3-day Battle of Arracourt, the 4th Armored Division, the David with the obsolete tank and the cowardly new doctrine, annihilated the Goliath. The numbers tell the story. The Germans laughed at the M4 Sherman. But in this battle, the 4th Armored Division lost 25 tanks. The expert 5th Panzer Army, with its invincible Panthers, lost 200. It was one of the most lopsided armored victories of the entire war. The Goliath had been slain. The expert Germans could not understand what had happened. General Hasso von Manteuffel, in his expert after-action report, was baffled. He wrote that his expert Panthers were technically superior in armor and gun, but that the Americans had won. How he blamed the fog, he blamed cowardly American artillery, he blamed cowardly P-47s who had in fact been grounded by the fog. He could not, in his expert Goliath mind, admit the truth. He had been beaten by a better crazy tactic. He had been beaten by Spooky Smith and Spooky's crazy upside-down periscope, the gimmick that his expert lieutenant had laughed at. By the end of the Battle of Arracourt, every single tank in the 37th Battalion had a lumpy, ugly, unauthorized piece of junk welded upside down to its hatch. The crazy idea was now standard operating procedure. The unlikely hero was now the new expert. The Battle of Arracourt was over. It was a stunning, impossible victory, but it was not the end of the war. Staff Sergeant Marcus Spooky Smith, the unlikely hero NCO, kept fighting. He kept tinkering. He kept peeking. He fought his coward's war all the way through the Battle of the Bulge, and he survived. His crazy upside-down periscope, his ugly, field-welded gimmick, became the unofficial badge of honor for the 37th Tank Battalion, a symbol of a lesson learned in blood. But when the war in Europe ended on May 8, 1945, the expert system, the Goliath of the U.S. Army doctrine, had to reckon with the facts. And the impossible fact was this: the 4th Armored Division, using obsolete M4 Shermans, had destroyed more enemy tanks than any other division in the entire U.S. Army. The Brawlers had become the most effective ambush predators of the war. The expert system had been proven wrong. The crazy idea had been proven right. The boardroom at Fort Knox had to listen. The laughter had to stop. And what of the humble hero? Like the cook who silenced the ships, like the medic who stole the plasma, Spooky Smith was not one man. He was a composite. He was the spirit of the tinkerer NCO. He was the man who, when the book failed, wrote a new one with a welding torch. After the war, he went home. He returned to Ohio. He didn't write a book. He didn't teach at Fort Knox. He went back to his motor pool. He went back to his quiet life. He was a humble hero who had no idea that his crazy solution, his coward's tactic, was about to become the expert doctrine for the next 75 years. The expert system did learn. The boardroom conflict had been won by the unlikely hero. First, the hardware. The U.S. Army knew the peashooter 75mm was obsolete. The new Shermans, the expert solution, were upgunned with the high-velocity 76mm cannon. But that wasn't the real lesson. The real lesson was what Spooky Smith had proven. In tank warfare, he who sees first, kills first. The Goliath's invincible armor is useless if he is blind. The David's useless gun is a killer if he has a perfect shot at the Goliath's side. The entire future of American tank design was changed by this crazy idea. The expert doctrine of the brawler was dead. The new expert doctrine, the Spooky Smith doctrine, was born. It was called Hunter-Killer. And the crazy upside-down periscope, the gimmick that was laughed at, that became the obsession of the expert system. In the 1950s, the M48 Patton tank was given a revolutionary expert cupola, a crazy new design that allowed the TC to rotate 360 degrees while buttoned up and hunt for targets. In the 1980s, the Goliath of American tanks, the M1 Abrams, was built. And what was its impossible advantage? Not just its armor, not just its gun. It was its optics, the full circle, the punchline. Today, on the top of an M1 Abrams, there is a device. It is called the Commander's Independent Thermal Viewer, CITV. It is a crazy multi-million-dollar gimmick. It is a rotating 360-degree thermal imaging periscope. It allows the expert TC to sit safely, buttoned up deep inside his invincible tank, and independently hunt for targets. While his gunner is engaging a different target, it is, in effect, Spooky Smith's upside-down periscope. The crazy, cowardly idea that was laughed at, the idea that a tinkerer NCO had to weld to his tank, is now the most expensive, most secret, and most expert piece of hunter-killer technology in the entire U.S. Army. The unlikely hero had not just fixed his tank. He had in fact invented the future of tank warfare. The moral of the story is the tinkerer's revenge. The expert will always try to build an invincible Goliath. The by-the-book will always create a perfect doctrine, but that expert system is brittle. It laughs at crazy ideas. It punishes cowardice. And then, an unlikely hero, a tinkerer who is not brave but smart, who is not a brawler but a hunter, comes along. He doesn't care about the book. He doesn't care about Goliath's armor. He cares about the impossible problem. And he solves it, not with bravery but with a crazy idea. The Battle of Arracourt was the expert Panther's debut. It was supposed to be the Goliath's coronation. Instead, it was its funeral, because 150 invincible German tanks ran into a better tactic. They ran into a crazy idea. They ran into a tinkerer's upside-down periscope.